Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're well. My name's Matt, and I'm a business growth advisor at Wenta. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I will be hosting the webinar for you over the next hour or so. Could one of you just confirm in the chat for me that you can hear me, and see my slide as well, please? That would be great. Thank you, James. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through some tips today for time management. I think time management is one of those areas where I think sometimes I feel like a bit of a fraud presenting this as a webinar because I don't think anyone's perfect at it and anyone's by any stretch of the imaginations excellent at time management. I think we all have got work to do. So these tips that I've put together have come through my experience of working in corporate life for 20 years, running two of my own businesses more recently, and have come from the work that I do here at Winter. So hopefully, just this collection of tips and advice may just help you to, even if you just move up 1 or 2 points out of 10 in terms of your development and your improvement and time management. So I think it's an area where we can all certainly improve. So if you've got any questions as we go through, then please just stick them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them and give you any related content to them as well. Just going to start with telling you a little bit about Wenta. So you may be aware of us, you may not, but we are a not-for-profit social enterprise. We've been in operation for 40 years. And we do two main types of service. One are these webinars, of which there are two a day, and you can find out all the details, more details on the website. And also we provide one-to-one business support. So that one-to-one business support involves people like me. There's a team of six of us who are business advisors, all have experience in the real world doing businesses, work with people like you on a one-to-one basis, providing you support, advice, mentorship, sometimes accountability if you need it, to try and either help you to start your business or to grow your business if you have an existing business right now. So if that's something that's of interest, you can go onto our website and book an appointment, or I'll stick my contact details in the chat so that you can have a look, make contact if you've got any burning issues that you might need. The way in which we get our revenue is twofold. First of all, we do tap into some local government funding. So that's one source of income, but our major source of income is that we either own or operate for big businesses in Hertfordshire. So we've got one where I'm in today in Stevenage, one in Watford, one in Enfield, and one in Potters Bar. And we rent out that office space to small and medium-sized businesses like yourself. And the revenue we achieve from that then gets ploughed back into the business, which means that, and the most important thing about what we do is that the advice we provide, the guidance we provide is 100% free of charge. There are no conditions on it, there's no restrictions on it. So if you want support, you can keep on coming back and back. And as I say, there's no charge at all. So if anyone wants any more information, just stick it in the chat and I'll be happy to help and give you more information about what we do at Winter if it's relevant to you. So today we're talking about time management, as I said at the start. So, we want to try and understand first of all where we're spending our time and what potentially we're doing wrong with our time, so that we can manage it better. Like with any exercise in improvement, which is this is one we really need to try and take a kind of a snapshot, I guess, of where we are now and find a way to measure how effective we think we are. You will know yourself whether you think this is a major problem for you. By the fact you're here suggests that you probably do. So yeah, drawing a line under where we are and being able to manage it is really, really important. Also, what we want to try and do today is give you some ways in which you can identify areas that you can change. And again, measure the impact of them, because for most small business owners that I work with and I deal with about 30 or 40 every week, money is generally the biggest issue, generally lack of it in terms of being able to expand the business. But secondly, the most precious commodity they have is time. So that time needs to be used effectively so that you can grow your business and increase the revenues of your business. So that's the kind of learning objectives of today and what we're going to try and cover. Um, there's some contents here that you list on the screen, but this is not a long webinar, so I'm just going to crack on with it in a second and start getting to some of the useful stuff. But it's there for your guidance in terms of some of the things that we're going to be covering. So as I alluded to at the beginning, time management is a very difficult area to improve on, very difficult area in terms of coaching it because it's very, very individual. And you yourselves will know where you spend your time and what you do and maybe some of the errors with it. But it's important that you look for some small improvement to be able to push yourself forward. The way in which we do that, and the most important thing we have to start with, as I said, is that we have to come up with some sort of baseline. So some of you may have done this before. The baseline in this exercise is about taking stock of where you are and actually putting in place some data. Because then if we put in place some data and look at some clear facts, then it makes it very easy for us to be able to move forward and see the areas where we need to improve. So this baseline is a time management tracker. So it's an exercise you should do once, and probably an exercise that you should do probably every 6 months after that to see whether you are improving. And it's a very, very basic process. And it starts really by you recording your time. So when I've done it for people in the past, I've got a spreadsheet that's all laid out in terms of the timings and what you need to write down. But essentially what you're doing is every 15 minutes, an alarm's going off on your phone or on your device, and you need to write down or type into your sheets, if you're that way inclined, exactly what you are doing at that point in time. The key for this is to be honest and not try and kid yourself, because if the data that goes in is wrong, then often what you'll try and do is put in place new techniques and structures for your time that will be fixing the wrong problem. I've got some sheets all set up. If anyone wants these, you can just let me know and send me an email and I'll give them to you. But the first stage of this is just collecting the data. So being as honest as possible. I would advise generally to do this for 3 different days over the period of a week or 2 weeks, because as you will know, running your own business can be fraught with last minute emergencies, issues, whatever it may be. And sometimes part of the appeal of running your own business is that no 2 days are the same. So if you do this over a period of 3 different days, then you're going to get a truer set of data of which you can then look at, and hopefully will point you in directions where you can change some certain things to get better with your time. The other thing to say on this is that you've got to use the timings correctly. So most of the people that I work with that run a business do not work a Monday to Friday 9 till 5. So if you are starting your working day at 7 o'clock in the morning and working till 5, or you're starting your day at 2 in the afternoon and working through till 10 o'clock, whichever pattern you are in, that's when you need to start recording the time. Because if you just do that Monday to Friday 9 till 5, then there will be all these additional bits and pieces that you're doing that won't be collected in this data. So do it 3 times, hopefully get 3 different days. Quite simple. Every 15 minutes, alarm goes off. You write down on the sheet as honest as possible in terms of what you're doing. And then that will allow us to plot this time to see where we might be making mistakes or errors. So this is what we call the time management matrix template. And what you will see here is that you've got some words going up the left-hand side and some words down the bottom. So on the left-hand axis, it is not important, important, and along the bottom axis is urgent and not urgent. So what you're doing with this matrix, either you're writing in or you're giving every 15-minute slot a number. Basically, everything that's on your list, you will be plotting on this grid. Yeah. So if something is really, really urgent and really, really important, then you will plot that up to the top right, if you can see my mouse moving. If something is not really important at all, is not important and not urgent, then you will be plotting it down here. So use these boxes and grade these boxes higher or lower in terms of the work you're doing and where you're going to plot it. So if you've got a lot of stuff written on your sheet, you might just want to number it so that you've got a selection of numbers in each of these grids, which will give you an idea of what you are doing. So each of these grids that you'll see will have different work that goes into them. And I hope probably some of you might be thinking about some of these boxes now and thinking, God, what am I doing in there and how much time am I spending? So the yellowy box, urgent, important. This is when you're dealing with a crisis, an emergency, something that's pressing. And what we need to think about is it's true stuff that's pressing. So not just stuff that people believe is super important, but something that is going to have an impact on your business. Anything that's deadline driven, anything that's kind of last minute prep stuff for your business goes in box number one. Box number two, the kind of pinky ready color. This is important and not urgent. So this is preparation, planning, prevention, anything that needs clarification. So it's important, but it's not. This doesn't mean it has to be done now. It's a bit of a kind of planning stage. So ways in which to improve your capability, relationship building, all of these sorts of things would go into box number two. Box number three, the green one. So this is not important but urgent. So this is where people are interrupting you. I'm sure you have loads of, lovely people that like doing that on a regular basis. Sometimes we have to call them customers, but sometimes they're not. So calls, emails, meetings, what seems to be pressing is matters or popular activities. So what I mean by popular activities are things that you like doing. So not necessarily the things that need to be done for your business, but the things that you like doing as an individual. And then box number four, yeah, is where we're doing stuff, what I call busy work. We're doing things to either appear busy, talk ourselves into the fact that we're busy, and maybe it's not that important, but we just feel as though we're doing what we need to be able to do. Any trivial activities, maybe some calls and emails, escape activities. So going on to TikTok or Facebook or whatever your poison is, and you think, well, I'll just spend 5 minutes on TikTok watching a couple of videos, and then 45 minutes later, you're still on TikTok watching videos of cats that are scared of cucumbers, which, if you haven't seen that, I'd thoroughly recommend it. So this is when we're trying to evade stuff here because it's not important and not urgent. Now, hopefully, some of you may be thinking with this, I already know where I'm spending too much time. Yeah. But I would ask, and if you put it in the chat, which box do you think you should be spending the majority of your time in? Yeah. So not all of your time, but which box do you think you should be spending the majority of your time in if you're doing things properly? One, Jane? So if we've got a split of percentage in terms of time across these boxes, then if you are doing things correctly, it'd be very difficult to avoid all of these boxes. But the box that is the most important box and where you should therefore be spending the majority of time is box number two. So this is where you haven't got the time pressure, yeah, of it being super urgent. So you're able to plan, you're able to think about things, get things in order, check whether you need to get anything clarified or whether you need someone else's input. So if you can, if you have percentage figures in these four boxes, we would hope that the biggest percentage here is in that area. If your biggest percentage is in box number one, then that suggests that you may need to change some of your operational processes. You may need to change some of your planning. Or you may need to get some assistance from other people so that you can give yourself time and get some help dealing with that. If you're in a situation where I've probably been many times in my life, when you do this exercise, if you're having a particularly bad day or week, yeah, then you might be spending some too much time in box number four. Yeah, then that's probably because what you're trying to do is not engaging you, or you're not focused, and that's a whole other kind of range of different issues that you need to think about when you're doing that. So if you've done this before, then great. If you've not done this, then I would suggest doing this exercise. So remember, it's every 15 minutes you record, and then you're going to be plotting it on the matrix, and that will see where your percentage figures go. Yeah, and if you want to share that with me afterwards in terms of what percentage one, two, three, and four was of your time, then I'd be more than happy to then try and give you some techniques specific to you to be able to move some of those percentages around so that you get more back in your day and you feel as though you are being more effective. So that's the kind of baseline. Yeah. So once you've got the baseline, then we need to say, right, okay, what can we do about it? So let's assume that you've done the exercise and let's assume that you have been aware of kind of what the problem is and where the time issue is. Then what I'm going to do now is run through some tips and hints that may be useful for you to improve your time management and be better at what you do. Yeah. So what can we change? Number one, I think there's about 12 of these. So 10, 11, 12, something like that. So number one, my first bit of advice, you may have heard of this before. Anyone heard of eat the frog before? Yeah, quite a well-known saying, but very, very apt for where we are right now in terms of improving things. Yeah, one of the key issues I have when I'm working with small business owners is that there is often a lack of confidence or partly maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome. So that makes them dwell on some of the important things. So eat the frog comes from Mark Twain, and Mark Twain said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat two frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. So the key with that is about prioritizing. The key with that is understanding yourself and understanding what sort of person you are and when you function at your best. So for me, my kind of peak times are between 7 o'clock in the morning and about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Yeah. After that, I go into a little lull. I kind of have a little bit of a resurrection in the afternoon. Unfortunately, not at 2 o'clock for you people, but I have a resurrection at some point. And so I know that if I need to do something that requires brain power, yeah, then I know I need to do it in the hours between 7 and 11. And if I keep on putting off the important stuff, yeah, which is in box two, if you can remember that, if you can picture that box before, then if I leave it and leave it and leave it and don't eat the frog, then it becomes an issue that's going to then sit in box number one. Yeah, some people do good work in box number one, but it puts you under pressure where you don't really need to be. Tip number two, block out distractions. So if you have an idea of what's distracting you, a lot of the time these days it's social media. There are apps, ironically, or websites that can help you with blocking out. So if you are in a situation where you know you're doing a piece of work you don't enjoy and a piece of work you don't really want to do, and you're going to be distracted by notifications, turn them off. Yeah, if you're doing a bit of work that you can do offline, yeah, and you're worried about notifications, turn your Wi-Fi off. Because what this will do if you block out those noises, it will enable you, yeah, to focus 100% on the task you're doing. So you won't be in a situation where one of these starts beeping off and you're either looking at social media or, you're checking what's on the menu for dinner tonight or arranging with your friends to go out somewhere. So it's kind of going a bit cold turkey, and that's one of the names of the products. Yeah. By saying, okay, if you need to focus, then get rid of all distractions and use technology to be your friend rather than your enemy. Yeah, the last point on this is most of us have probably got a to-do list, but also I would encourage you to have a not to-do list. Yeah, when I had my own business, I kind of had a pinboard in front of my laptop, and I would put several things on there as a reminder of what I needed to be doing. So I would have the things to do list by my side so I could see it. Um, but I would have post-it notes on there saying about things not to do, getting dragged into situations, getting distracted, doing things that I shouldn't be doing. And it's about self-management and self-improvement. So having a not to-do list might help you if you think you have a problem. Number three, quite controversial, this in some ways, because people may have told you before that if you want to run your own business or you're running your own business, you need to be really good at multitasking. And I think that's uh, not right. I was trying to think, I had a bad word in my head. Yeah, so I had to get it out. So yeah, I think multitasking, if you're running a business, is probably the worst thing that you can do. Yes, of course, we need to spin plates, and sometimes we have to do that, and we can't avoid it. But if you have any control over what you do, yeah, then you need to try and divide your time up so that you are focusing on one thing at a time. Because as a business owner, you are sales director, marketing director, managing director, director of making tea, and all the different things that go on in your business. It is your responsibility if it's just you. But if you try and do a little bit of all these things at the same time, then you will come crashing down, in my humble opinion, because each of these areas need different focus, and often each of these areas need a different skill set. So try and avoid multitasking and try and be better at saying, okay, I need to do this task. It's going to take me 2 hours and I'm going to focus on it and I'm not going to touch anything else until that's completed. So sounds pretty obvious, but I'm sure there may be a couple of you there who are thinking, no, I'm guilty of doing that, starting one thing, then starting another, then starting another, and thinking that I need to be juggling all the time. So please, if you can, avoid multitasking and focus on the thing that you are doing. Next one's a bit preachy in terms of, advice here, but it's certainly something that I suffered when I had a business because I was working all of the time, and it was and I wasn't doing enough of this. So it's coming from experience in terms of not getting enough break and not getting enough rest, especially if you're working all the time right up until you're going to bed and the laptop's there or the phone's there. Yep. What you're going to have is probably difficulty sleeping, probably issues with your sleep. Yep. And you need to make time as a business owner to ensure that you rest. Yeah. And obviously the 9 till 5 situation doesn't kind of um, apply to you as such. So you need to be very, very careful in terms of your downtime, as well as organizing the things you have to do. Try and organize the things you need, like downtime and rest. And part of the appeal about running your own business is that needs to happen at 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Then it happens. You're not no boss over your shoulder kind of telling you what you can and can't do. Yeah, so trying to use that. Feel so preachy when I do this because I'm guilty of this, like a lot of people. But yeah, trying to keep away from those screens, trying to get enough sleep, enough downtime, because you will need your brain to be active, and therefore that will actually make you much more efficient at managing your time and producing your work if you just take those breaks. Number 5, use templates to make life easier. So here is a couple of dodgy looking templates here. So one I use for a customer to make it really, really simple. But operationally, marketing wise, I see so many of my customers making the same mistakes over and over again and sitting down with a blank sheet every time they're either communicating with customers, if they're an existing customer, or doing some of their marketing. So take some time at the start, and there's great tools like Canva, which will come up again, I'm sure, today, and other tools there that can make it a lot easier for you to control what you're doing. So this example here in the middle is just like an advert, a standard advert, where if we actually set this up in terms of the size, get it working in the correct way, the URL, often the call to action, the logo certainly will be standard text. So all you're doing when you're doing it is coming up with a headline, an image, and some copy there in terms of that advert to make it appeal to your customer base. So even if that's customer communications, even if that's you're responding to things on Facebook, then having templates can just then make it a cut and paste exercise. It doesn't mean to say that you can't top and tail that with the personal approach and a bit of your personality, but it will save you so much time rather than doing everything from scratch over and over again. Number 6 is called the Pomodoro technique. I'm not sure whether you've heard about this. It's often referred to as well as the 25 plus 5. Yep. So what basically you do is quite similar in a way to the time management exercise we said at the start about recording your time. So it's based on time again, but this one is slightly different because it's about getting that kind of space away from what you're doing and being able to kind of re-engage your brain and take some time to think. So you pick a task that you want to work on, yeah, and you set a timer on your phone or on your clock for 25 minutes. Once that timer has gone off for 25 minutes, you walk away for 5 minutes. So what that doesn't mean is that you stay at the screen. Like if I'm sitting here and go, right, I'm going to stop on this and go and have a look on TikTok or check my emails or something like that. It's about the discipline of saying 25 minutes hard work with no distractions and pure focus. You walk away for 5 minutes. Yeah, go and play with the dog, go and make a cup of tea, whatever it may be. Yeah. Once that 5 minutes is up, you come back, you start again on that piece of work, and you repeat that process 3 times. On the fourth time of taking that process, then you take a longer break, so a 30-minute break, because that will probably be getting to that sort of time anyway that you need to have a proper break. So, yeah, the 25 plus 5 rule, Pomodoro technique, can be very, very useful if you're having to work on stuff that needs focus. And if you're having to work on stuff often, which is customer facing, it just allows you to kind of make sure that you're factoring in those breaks. What I often find if I do this is during that 5 minutes, I can't switch off completely from what I'm doing, but actually I then go back and look at what I've done so far, because that clarity in 5 minutes can make me think, right, what I put there was wrong, or I need to add this, or I forgot to add this. So just walking away can help you actually improve the quality of your work as well. Number 7, identify your core work times. So looking at what other things take up your time, looking at when you are at your best and worst. I mentioned this earlier, and thinking about how much time you're going to lose. So if you are working 7 o'clock in the morning till 3 or 2 o'clock in the morning till 10, it's about structuring that time and figuring out when you are at your best and making sure that you are doing the right things at the right time. I think when you're looking at your time as well, it's very important to think about the relationship between working hours and billable hours. So if any of you are charging on an hourly basis, or even you're producing something that has a time factor to it, then you should be very aware. You probably are very aware at the moment about the working hours you do, but you should also be thinking about the billable hours. So the definition of that is if you are spending any amount of time where you are working on something that you are getting directly paid for. So if it's stuff like marketing, if it's stuff like admin, if it's doing tax returns, all that sort of stuff, then you are not getting paid directly for it, even down to emailing new customers that aren't customers yet. None of that is billable hours. It's where you're working on a piece of work and someone is directly either is going to or has paid you for that. And there's a relationship between the two because most people, when they do their pricing, they make a mistake by using their working hours to calculate their pricing. So they think, right, I'll be working 40 hours a week, so I'm going to base my rate on that. When actually, if you are managing to get your billable hours up to about 50% of your working hours, then you're doing quite well in terms of that amount of time that's being billed. So think about the relationships between those two things if you are that way, if you are charging by the hour or time is a heavy factor into your thing. So it's remembering that you're not working 9 till 5, but it's also being very, very personal. So I'd probably say the majority of people I work with are better at working in the mornings, but there may be some of you on here who are better at working in the evenings. So don't be afraid to do that and don't be afraid to break away from the norm because it's not a 9 till 5 job running your business. And maybe one of the reasons why you decided to be self-employed was that you didn't want to conform to the Monday to Friday 9 till 5, because therefore it gives you a bit more flexibility to do other things. So get your core time sorted out. Think about how much time you lose and think about the difference between the working hours and the billable hours. And I can go into that in more detail if you want me to another time on a one-to-one basis. Number 8, obviously embrace technology. So unfortunately, technology can often be a drainer on our time and can often be a reason for us to lose focus and be operating too much in the wrong box. But there's a number of different tools out there. Some of you might be using it already that will make things much easier in terms of your working day. So there's a couple of a couple of examples there. So a couple of these I've used personally. So Calendly, if you haven't used Calendly, if your time involves booking meetings or getting people to book time into your diaries, if that is you, and this happens to me on a daily basis where I seem to spend forever going backwards and forwards with people trying to find the right time to meet them, whether it's that week or the following week. Unfortunately, our systems are not compatible with tools like Calendly, which is a big pain. But if you are in a situation where people have to book time with you, Calendly is relatively inexpensive, can be tagged onto your systems, and you go in and set up your availability, which allows your customers or your colleagues to book time in your diary without the 37 emails going either way. There's also task manager tools like Monday and Monday.com and HubSpot and a whole range of other things where you can plug in all of your outputs that's needed and use that to manage your time and manage your priorities. I've used similar ones before, similar CRM systems before, which can be useful if you're in a complex business or if you have a large sales pipeline where you need to manage the data and understand exactly where things are. Obviously, if you can automate any processes, you can. Fantastic. Part of that then is using tools like Hootsuite. So Hootsuite used to be a free tool. I think there's a small charge. I've not looked at it for a year or so, but I think there's a small charge for it now. So Hootsuite is one example of a marketing scheduling tool. So this is where you could sit down on a Sunday evening, you could create and plan all of your social media marketing for that week, and you can sit there and say, right, I want this going live on Facebook at Wednesday at 5 o'clock. I want this going live on Instagram on Thursday at 2 o'clock, whatever it may be, and you can sit in Hootsuite and other tools that are available as well and plan that all out so that you can sit there on a Sunday for a couple of hours, line up all of your marketing, press the button, and you don't need to do anything else for the rest of the week. You can focus on delivering stuff to your customers. So Hootsuite, great example of a really good tool, and again, not that expensive, that you can use to make your life and your time a whole lot easier. The last one then I've mentioned already, and I'm a recent addition to the Canva family in terms of using it. Probably been using it for about a year. If you haven't used Canva, I would check it out. Relatively easy to use for the tool it is. Very, very template driven. I think you can even build websites on it now. Um, but Canva is a really fantastic tool for social media marketing, because sometimes with social media, it's just getting the size right, the format right, things like that, where that's all set up for you in Canva. Again, one of the few things I actually pay for the premium service on it, which I think costs me about £15 a month, which gives you more functionality. So if you've not been on Canva, please go and check it out, because that will save you a huge, huge, huge amount of time. And there is a free version as well, which is still pretty good. So, and there's not many things around at the moment where the free version is very good. So check that out if you haven't already. So that's number 8, embracing technology. Number 9, this seems a bit strange that it may be linked to time management, but I think it's evidence of this I see probably 10, 15 times a week. I talked before about working on billable hours, and that's obviously a calculation you need to do and base your pricing on your billable hours, not your working hours. But also, when I see people calculating their prices wrong, it then creates a massive issue for them in terms of time management, because they're getting less in terms of revenue into the business. So therefore, they're having to work longer and longer hours to hit those revenue targets and keep their head above water. So I would say probably 80% of the people I work with, I could put their prices up by 20% straight away, and they would see no negative impact on their business at all. Just by increasing those prices by 20%, they'll often sell the same. So that's 20% more revenue coming into their business. The reason why I think small businesses get pricing wrong, first of all, often it's the first time people have done it and they're not really sure how to price things, and maybe they've not put in all the factors that they need, and covering all their costs and thinking about the time that's spending. So that's certainly one thing, a little bit of ignorance in terms of not having done it before. The other, and probably the biggest reason, is again linking through to the mindset of the business owner. So whether it is they've never done it before, whether it is they're suffering from a bit of imposter syndrome, whether they're doubting their ability, then often what happens is that people put a much lower valuation on the work they're producing or the service they're providing, because they don't think it's worth it. Yeah, and they find it uncomfortable to look at their work and put the right value on it. In terms of finding out the right value, then that comes down to competitor analysis, looking what else is out there in the marketplace, thinking about the value of you and thinking about the problems you solve for your customers. But don't be tempted, or at least check that out or get separate advice, because generally the pricing I see is too low for those factors that I've outlined. I think the other element that you can think about with this that will end up saving you time, because you'll be more effective with the time you're spending and the money you're getting into your business, is think about your view on discounting. So I was on a website this morning. I popped onto the website to look at some products, and straight away, within 3 seconds, I get a banner pop up to say, "Give me your email address, and we'll give you 30% off." I hadn't even looked at a product. I hadn't even considered what products I was wanting. I was just browsing. Why straight away would you offer me 30% off just to get my email address? Because if you came and looked at my email account now, you'd realize that 99% of emails that are sent to me via companies end up in one place, and that's the bin. Yeah. So, yeah, I understand that people want to build up value by having databases. It's very difficult to make databases work in the average company, especially if you've only got 50, 100, 150 names on your list. But I guess the main point is, why are we so quick to discount? So many small businesses are quick to knock money off because they think that's the only issue that customers have at the moment, is about getting it for the cheapest price. In some areas, of course, price is very, very important, but for the majority of small business I work with, it's not about the price. It's about the quality, it's about the service, it's about the person, and that's why people want to engage with it. So think about how you're calculating your pricing, thinking about how you're often devaluing yourself and your products by just jumping to the discounted. And I think the discounting method sometimes is done because it's a little bit lazy and you're not really sure what to do in terms of marketing and how you can be creative. So you think if I just incentivize people on price, then that will get me more customers. Yeah. I always say to people, how's that working out for you? Because I generally I'm not that smart, but I'm smart enough to know that if they come to me for advice, then things aren't working out that well. So be careful about that because it will have a massive knock-on effect on your time, and you'll be in a situation where you feel as though all you're doing is working, but every time you're checking your bank balance, you're not seeing the results. That could be, it could be many reasons, but it could be is that your prices are incorrect. So if you're unsure about that, drop me a line at the end, and I will try and help and advise you on what you can do to improve that. Number 10, estimating time correctly. So we've talked about time a lot in terms of your projects and talking about walking away. So whether it's the 25 plus 5, whether it's any of the techniques we there about distractions and stuff, time and how you estimate it for your work is very, very important. Yeah. So when you're looking at how you estimate and how you allocate how much time you're going to need to spend on a particular project, especially if it's a product for a customer, then think about the time. You may have done it before, you might know, but factor in Murphy's Law. So Murphy's Law is, if something could go wrong, then it often does. So if you've said, well, I could get that work done in an hour and there's a knock-on effect with everything else, stick in an hour and a half. So if you are in the situation, if you do then complete in an hour, happy days, you just earn half an hour back of your day. So think about the things that can go wrong, estimate the time, and think about how much time something should be taking. So that's good. It sets you targets. It makes sure that you understand that you're in control of it. But just factor in that kind of little bit of flex, that little bit of space, so that you know, if something does go wrong, I'm covered, and that's not going to set me back for the rest of the day. Number 11, smart goals. I'm sure most of you have heard, or all of you have heard of smart goals before. So, if you have, this is probably just a reminder. But if you're running a business, the temptation is to get involved far too much in the day to day, far too much in the here and now, and you just do stuff, which I get because there's often pressures on a lot of things. But um, I think, and this is something as I've got older and hopefully a little bit wiser, that setting goals is very, very important. Having a plan, having a structure is very, very important. And if I was to hear the old me now, if I was the young me saying, "Oh, you need a business plan. Oh, you need a marketing plan. You need structure," like I'd be shocked. Yeah. But maybe it's something that comes with a little bit of experience that says structures, setting goals, having a plan is incredibly, incredibly important for your business. And the temptation there is just to go out and do it, as I did with my first business I have. And then after 6 months, once that energy's run out, you have nothing to come back to look at how you need to structure and where you need to go next. So setting goals is very, very important for your business. What you can see on screen there. So you've got S for specific, M for measurable, A for attainable, R for relevant, and T for time bound. So the specific means is that you're not just going to put something wishy-washy in terms of what the goal is. Yeah. So if you were embarking on a challenge, say, I want to lose weight. Yeah. The goal could be, I want to lose weight. Yeah. But when you look at that, none of that is specific. None of that is measurable. Yeah, it may be attainable, but there's no kind of measurement sitting there. Yeah. Is it relevant? Probably in my case. And is there a time element to it? So if you're saying, I want to lose some weight, which I say on a regular basis and do nothing about, yeah, that's not a smart goal. If I was to say, I want to lose weight by going to the gym 3 times a week, now we're starting to get a little bit better. It's a little bit more specific, but it's not measurable, probably not attainable in my case. Is it relevant? It's starting to get a bit more relevant because I'm talking about how I'm going to do it, but there's still no time element on it. Now, if I said I'm going to lose 2 stone, in the next 6 months, primarily by going to the gym 3 times a week and making sure I've got a better diet, then it's much more specific. It's much more measurable because I've got a weight that I want to lose and I've got a time. Is it attainable? For most people, yes. Me, probably not. But for the purpose of this, we'll say yes. Is it relevant? Hell, yes, it is very relevant to me. Yeah. And was there a time bound element on it? Yeah. So, which there was in that. So, everything you do, rather than just setting goals on your things to do list or setting quick goals, I want to do this or I want to earn, be turning over £2,000 a month by January. Think about whether it is smart or not, because if it's not a smart goal and following this process, then the likelihood is you will fail because you've got no focus and you haven't thought about it a little bit before you go jumping in. So, another message of saying, yep, we want to move quickly. Yep, we love the excitement of running our own business, but it's just sometimes taking that little bit of time just to think about what you want to achieve and where you want to go with this. So, setting goals, really important. Making sure they're smart, really important as well. Number 12, and probably one of the biggest problems I come across on a daily basis with my clients, again, it's not them learning how to say no to me because that's pretty easy and pretty straightforward. Yeah. But so many people I work with just keep doing stuff for people. Any of you on here keep doing stuff for people and kind of don't want to say no, don't want to say thing, and people are just draining because you're just doing more and more and more. And also, then some of those customers that come with opportunities for you, sometimes you need to take a bit of time to look at that, yeah, and decide whether that is again an opportunity that, yeah, could be good for the short-term finances of the business, but the work involved and the detail involved is just going to be too much for you. So being able to say no and being able to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses is incredibly, incredibly important. If you haven't done one of these already, most people have, but sometimes they're a little bit out of date. Um, if you I'll put the name of the company in the chat so you can see it. If you've done a personality test before, normally it's based on something called Myers-Briggs. And if you've done one, like the first time I did one was probably about 20 years ago, so I do it on a regular basis now, every year, 18 months or so. If you stick 16 personalities into Google, then there is a free website of that name, which will allow you to carry out your own Myers-Briggs exercise. Yeah. Really interesting to see one, how you can change over the years. Yeah. But also with the report it gives you, which is all free of charge, it allows you to either ratify what you know already. Yeah. On both the positives and the negatives. Yeah. But sometimes it kind of puts things into words that you think, God, yeah, that is me. And if you have in that exercise and you get your personality report and you are the sort of person that finds it very difficult to say no and ends up doing loads of things for everyone else and not yourself, then you need to try and address that. We're not talking here about changing your personality and doing loads of things differently. What we're doing here is about trying to make small improvements that sometimes by saying no can actually end up helping the other person and will allow you more time to focus on the things that you need. Yeah. When I, especially one of the businesses, career coaching business I had, if I look at all the customers and who were the biggest problems of all the customers, then virtually every single time it was people I was doing a favor for, either a friend of a friend who I offered a discount to, or a friend that I was doing it for free. They're the ones that ended up being the biggest pain in the backside because they want more and more and more. And the irony shouldn't be lost that you've got people paying nothing or a lower amount, therefore become much more demanding than the people that are paying the full amount. But having or lacking the ability to say no, yeah, is probably driving you towards spending so much of your time on things that are having no material impact on your business, and all they're doing is just draining your energy. Yeah. With that as well, sort of saying there, be mindful of those people that may drain your time and energy, but that's a life thing, I guess. But just think of that sometimes and think of that about where your time is being dragged. And sometimes you have to put new barriers in place with people so that you will allow yourself more time to focus about your business. And my last point with this is and I use this a lot, Mr. Albert Einstein, his theory of insanity. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So if you are here and thinking things aren't improving in my business, nothing's changing, then just if you're just doing the same things and expecting it to change overnight, then that is insanity. So if you would like any support, we have a team of business advisors here, all with slightly different specialities, but we kind of, most of us know a fair bit about a range, well, probably a smaller bit about a lot of different subjects. So if you do need any help and support and want to reach out, whether it's on managing your time, improving your processes, then you can either go to the website and give our office a call, or you can email me at the address that I've just put on the chat, and I'll be more than happy to direct you to the right person if you talk about what your needs may be. If you want to speak to me, that you can speak to me as well. But we are here to support you. There is no rules and regulations in terms of how we work. We're just reasonably honest people who are trying to help other people to grow their businesses and make a success of their new or small businesses. So if you do want to make contact, then we will be more than happy to help you and more than happy to work with you to improve your business. You can see on there the details for our website, the phone number if you want to phone up to book any appointments or ask any questions. But in the true spirit of time management, you were due to be here for an hour and a half today. I finished the presentation today in 45 minutes. So I've just gifted you back 45 minutes of your life. So either go and enjoy it and have some downtime, or use that 45 minutes to go and do something in box number one, the most box that causes most trouble, so that you can spend more time in box number two. Enjoy the rest of the day. Hopefully I will see some of you again in the future. Thank you very much.